All right, here we go. Live. What's going on, Trey? How are you tonight?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always excited to talk some fishing and chat fishing. Great way to break up the week and get ready for the weekend and get ready for spring. So,
yeah, especially when it's been so freaking cold here. I know you guys are used to it, but not 20 below here for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and we just call that Tuesday in Minnesota. So
yeah, I know. It's cold up there. Trust me. Family grew up there, so it's cold.
Nice. Well, yeah, I guess let us know in the chat how the sound is. People rolling in. Make sure we're off to a good start. Doug says we're good. Thanks, Doug. Awesome. So tonight we have Trey Harpel from TH Kustoms, and we got a few things to talk about tonight. So maybe just we're going to talk about rods, reels, maintenance, tuning, care. So like if you're into like learning more about your reels, your rods, what to do with them, how you can improve them, we're going to cover all that. We'll talk about BFS, which is Baitcaster nesting. We'll get into that as much as people want, but that's kind of a unique kind of little deal that Trey's really on. And we'll probably talk about some of the services that Trey does with custom painting, reel service, tuning. We'll answer any Dobyns rods or general rod questions anybody's got tonight. And then we got a special guest coming on, a new segment we're going to do in about 10-15 minutes. So stick around for that. We're going to try something out, and you guys can let us know if we should keep it going or what your thoughts are. Before we get too far, I just want to thank Arsenal Fishing for partnering with the stream and helping us keeping this doing every week. Just a reminder, you guys can use code HellaBass15 at arsenalfishing.com to save money and support the show. So they got a lot of great products, a lot of apparel, some tackle, some good tools, and I saw a lot of people pouring in. So I see one question already, and I guess just this leads right into like what we're going to talk about. So Trey, what do you do? Walt wants to know about your website.
Yeah.
So what's on your website, and what do you all do while we get going?
My website is parked. Whatever that means, I don't know. I'm not a tech guy. I've been having issues with it. We're trying to figure it out. So I can look at it, but nobody else can get to it. So we're just trying to figure out what's going on. I need to get it back up as soon as possible. On my business Facebook page, TH Reel Tuning and Cleaning LLC, I've got like 2,700 photos over there. So in the meantime, you can go over there and check out all like custom paints and reels and all that kind of stuff that I've been doing. But yeah, I pretty much 5 years full time cleaning reels, tuning them, upgrades, custom painting hard baits. I've been doing it for the last 4 months, probably 7 days a week, 70 hours right now. It is the absolute busiest I've ever been, just because everybody last year went fishing. So everybody's sending me the reels to get cleaned up and tuned, which is awesome. It's great. I just don't ever sleep. So
sleep's overrated unless you want to go fishing. So
yeah, I mean, I'm used to it anyway. So I'm always up doing something. If I'm not cleaning reels, I'm working on baits. If I'm not working on baits, I'm doing something at the house. So
awesome. I'm gonna pop that up. So you were talking about your Facebook business page. This is it right here, right? So
yep. Yeah. Yep.
So anybody's interested, I'll put a link in the chat. If somebody wants to bookmark that, check it out later as we talk about things. This is Trey's main website as of now.
Yeah, it's currently what I'm going through. My actual website actually just collapsed like 2 weeks ago. So we're trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know if we got hacked or what's going on. Yeah. But I've got a lot of pictures on my Facebook page and my Instagram.
Yeah.
Tons of photos.
TH Kustoms, which there's a link in the description below for that. So let's see who's all rolling in here. What's up, Tom? What's up, Sycamore? Bob? A lot of the regulars. Good to see you, Walt. David. Yeah, awesome. So
what's going on?
Yeah, lots of people. This is awesome. Greg vouches, says you do awesome work. What's up, Greg?
I try.
Yeah. So we'll touch on some of that. And I think you mentioned you also do some wake baits, don't you?
Yeah. So this is the custom wake bait that I designed probably 7 years ago. I did I did probably about 9 or 10 months of testing between Kentucky Lake, Lake of the Ozarks, up there in Wisconsin. I've done a lot of testing around grass and stuff. So this is just my signature bluegill shad color with the custom skirt. Since I work for Omega as well, I custom matched their swim skirts with my wake baits. So
yeah,
it's
Doug
been
wants
good.
to know, where are you located?
I am located west of St. Louis. Nobody knows where I live, so I just say St. Louis. So it's just the easiest way to describe it.
Yeah, good eye, Logan. Trey did fish the lacrosse H2H event, and you made it to the quarters last year. Is that right?
I made it to the finals and
the finals. Okay.
choked.
Yeah.
It happens. I've never been up there, so I knew who I was going against. I knew Cade's a beast up there. I know Kevin's a beast up there. You know, Kevin Herlitsky, all these guys are all local. I came from 8 hours away, never fished it, and grinded my butt off for that place. It was great, though. I love it up there.
Yeah, it was a cool event. You did great. I mean, and yeah, Kevin's a good buddy of mine, so it was hard to pick which one. I would have been happy with either one of you guys pulling it off, so that was cool.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I knew, you know, what each guy was doing just because I watched the previous days and stuff, but I knew exactly where Kevin was. He was right by the campground, which, I mean, it's right there. And there's a boat launch right there. So I just couldn't find the big schools. And then the last, 2 hours maybe, I found them. I pulled into an area and there was a 4.5 pounder right there. And I was in the area. I just need another 45 minutes.
Sure, for sure. So, and later on, we're going to talk about, we're gonna give away some of those wakes. So stay tuned, and we'll talk about how you can enter to win some wakes. So for those of you that said they looked cool and you're excited, we'll talk about how we can do that. Yeah, Tom says you're just next door to the Bass Pro in St. Charles, right?
Yeah, I'm probably 15 minutes away, maybe. I never go there, but yeah, I'm 15 minutes away.
Yeah, absolutely cool. So let's start with maybe just a little bit on the reels, right? So you do a lot of reel service. You're kind of a big Daiwa guy, from what I can tell. I like my fair share of Daiwa and Shimano reels. So what would you say? I'm the kind of guy that buys a new reel and I fish it. I don't clean it. I don't do it. What is your normal practice, or what do you do?
So typically with Daiwas, Shimanos, Daiwas typically come really dry from the factory.
Okay.
Internally, they're just dry. There's no grease. There's hardly any oil. They put a little oil and a little bit of grease on the worm gear, which is where your level wind goes. I had a reel. It's essentially this area right here where the teeth are.
Yep.
They come really dry. So I always break them down. I add grease, oil to the gears, to the main gears. On the Daiwas, they have the big spool. This is a Daiwa Tatula CT spool. See the long shaft here? This is a big friction point. It goes through the pinion gear. So I typically polish this to make it as smooth as possible, to make it the most consistent, the easiest casting. It just smooths out everything. It's a massive friction point.
So when you say polish it, actually rubbing it with
I take a Dremel and I've got a polishing compound mixture stuff that I use, and I will take the polishing wheel and I will go polish it until it is completely shiny to where you can see a reflection in it.
Yeah. So, but at minimum, you would definitely say put a couple drops of oil on that right out of the gate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. I've even talked with Daiwa and stuff, and I'm like, well, why are they coming so dry from the factory? And they can't give me an answer. So
nice. And
they're really dry. I mean, there's hardly any grease on the main gears.
Okay. What's up, Tackle Junkie? Thanks for joining. So would you say a Shimano, are they different? Do they come I hear some people say that reels come with too much grease. Now, is that just lower, or what brands? I don't know. What are your thoughts? What is Shimano? What are some other reels to know about?
Shimano from the past have come really, really packed with grease. And the other reasoning for that is they don't know how long those reels are going to sit on the retail shelves. So they want to over-grease them so they can sit on a shelf for either 6 months or 6 weeks, whatever it is, just in case. So nothing dries out. Lures come pretty dry. I mean, there's a middle ground to them. They use a weird grease. It's like, I've seen it where it looks like tobacco chew. It's just weird. It's like a brown goop looking stuff. They're not too bad, but again, they have the long spool shafts, so I typically polish those, and I do a ton of bearing upgrades. Nice.
Cool. Well, I think we're going to spend a lot of time getting into we're going to come back to reels. What's up, Shark? Good to see you, buddy. Joe says awesome. Best guest yet. That's pretty lofty, considering some of the guests I've had. So that's pretty cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in another special guest, and we're going to do a new spot. So welcome, Jacob Bros. What's up? For those that you don't know, hello. Jacob is with Omnia Fishing. So cheers to Jacob. Welcome to the show tonight. And our new segment, at least in my head right now, is what's hot at Omnia. So OmniaFishing.com is an online retailer. I know you've heard me talk about them before, but we just want to highlight some of the cool stuff that they've got going on, as well as bring you some data and information about what's working. So one of the cool things about Omnia is, obviously they have data from where they're selling stuff that we can get insight on. So we're going to talk about a few lures that are like catching fish and they're selling a lot of, maybe in the South or different regions. And then also because of their fishing report system, Jacob and the team has a lot of data on what people are catching them on. And so the thought is that we would talk about some of the stuff that's new, some of the stuff that's working, and just have a short segment. And then love to hear your guys' feedback on what you think of this, and maybe we'll keep it going. So that's the plan. So the real questions, I see those coming in. We'll get back to those in a few minutes. Welcome, Jacob. New to the stream. This is his first stream ever. Hello. So it's like a big thing, right? So
first time debut.
Yeah.
Rookie debut.
What is one of the first things you want to talk about, like geographically, down South Florida? Is there something that's happening that we want to start out with?
I only grabbed a couple of the things that we talked about.
Sure.
So you've got the master list, but definitely one of them is, anything red.
Right.
It's flying.
Right. The red stuff's flying.
I don't have. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
I don't have tons of numerical data for this one. Right. I hope that's when we grow this or define it a little bit more, we can figure out what we want to pull and we can go into it and really dive into it. But anything red right now is moving.
Right. So you guys are selling red. Red chatterbaits were gone. They're gone already. A lot of crankbaits, right? Fritz sites, OGs. Yep. But I think one of the things that we expect this week, right, is that at the Tennessee River in Knoxville, we expect to see the Fritz side to play quite a bit. So I think we'll see some of the spring craw colors. We'll see some of the red colors in flat sides. So that's something that's just starting. Like in certain parts of the country, but I think that is something that we expect to see a lot in the next couple weeks being really hot is flat-sided crankbaits. So one of the ones that we're featuring tonight is the Fritz side, especially the 5. I think that's a really popular color, and I think that's something we'll see a lot of. I don't know, what do you think, Trey?
Definitely the Fritz side. I just painted up a couple of them for a buddy that's fishing here, so he's going to use them this early spring. Water's still in the 30s here, but definitely Fritz sides. I'd say square bills, of course, maybe small swim baits, Kitex, Exo Swims, 3.5s.
Sure.
I love the river fishing, so I can't wait for the tournament to start tomorrow.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, it'll be tough, but I think it's actually the bite's going to open up. And actually, I did a video about red just 2 days ago. So if you're interested in why red works in the spring, I kind of put my thoughts together in my Monday video. Bass are not colorblind. They can see different colors at different levels, and we kind of break that down. So yeah, definitely check out the Fritz side if you're looking for some new flat sides for the spring. Further south, right? I think we talked about Gambler. Big Easy is a hot bait. And I actually was like just hanging out on Instagram earlier in the story, and I saw Hayden's post. He had a big
I
old
saw that.
one of these choked
Made me jealous.
flashy swimmer in his mouth. So a real popular technique in Florida, right? And you guys are selling quite a few of these right now in Florida. Is the Gambler Big Easy rigged on like a beast hook? Sometimes weighted, sometimes not. Sometimes with the spinner. You guys can kind of see that. This color is called Killer G. So I'm guessing that's like a killer gill. It's kind of a green pumpkin, laminate, June bug, black, blue. It's just a good looking color. But that's just over any shallow vegetation. So Florida, that's hot right now, but I think pretty soon, like in a couple weeks, places like Seminole, Eufaula, like that warm weather is going to come up, and that type of shallow kind of grass swim bait is going to play all across the Southeast if that's where you're from. And like last year in the summertime, this was a good bait on leech. Like when they were really locked in on that frog, this was sneaky good in the wild rice and things like that. This comes through that heavy vegetation. And I could even see some scenarios like where you were fishing, Trey, in head-to-head, where if it wasn't such a tough bite, this could have been a kind of a bait that could have been a really good search bait, you know, and some of that. Because like the river's really changing. There's a lot more rice in the river and different kinds of vegetation. So something like this could be sneaky where a frog might struggle. So
yeah, I mean, Cade was fishing like all the way back in the rice. Like I don't even know where he was. But he was throwing that frog back there, and guys were throwing like the swim bait or the white flukes around, you know, lay down some timber.
For sure.
Rich, how are you fishing that? How are you fishing that on leech?
On leech,
fishing on a swim jig or just a beast hook?
Just
or a swim bait hook?
A beast style hook. Yeah. Because it was super windy, we were using a really light weight on the shaft. Because otherwise it would just so much bow in the line. But yeah, it's just like the way they fish it in the hay grass down in Florida. You can do the same thing up on leech once the grass. I mean, this was more in the fall when the rice was starting to stand up. So it was really similar to the hay grass in Florida.
Gotcha.
So how about a wintertime vault or a wintertime bait for your pick, Jacob? What's the bait that you're really excited about that's doing really well?
So probably in September, we onboarded Demiki. And so we got the vault this was the pick that I chose. The vault was, me and Pete decided that the vault was kind of a sneakier bait that wasn't getting a ton of press, but it's also, the blade bait's a really kind of quiet thing that no one really talks about. And that vault is legit. We've flipped our vaults a lot this year. I mean, right now, if you go on the site, they're pretty obliterated.
Yeah, picked over.
Yeah.
So for you not familiar,
we can't get any more right now.
So like a silver buddy, a Binsky, it's like that style of bait. But the difference for the vault is it's kind of more of a premium component version of a blade bait. What's up, St. Cress? And so you're going to get a little bit better paint jobs. You're going to get more detail. I think they come with a higher end hooks and components than some of those other traditional blade baits. So I guess that's what really sets it apart from my perspective. You seem thumbs up. Have you used these, Trey?
Yeah. So the first time I used them was up in Upper Michigan with JVD. He took us out, showed me how to blade bait because we typically don't do it here. And he had a couple of the vaults. Great bait. Especially with the different line ties and everything that they offer on them. Sharp hooks, durable. They land belly flat. I mean, it was a great bait.
Cool. Speaking of,
I like the little snap that comes on the vault. The little snap that comes on a vault is definitely one of the nicer ones you can get.
Yeah. And so do you guys, you pretty good with the hooks right out of the gate, or do you switch them out right away on a vault?
On any blade bait, I swap them.
Okay.
I
swap them to. I typically match the same size. I think more important than size of the hook is your instead of a split ring. Yeah, I do think it's worth it to do to tie the split rings with braid. Lets that hook totally move. Like this one's straight out of the box, and you can see that the swivel or the snap there. There's no movement. Like that's way too easy for a fish to get leverage, but tying braid loops makes a big difference. Really big difference. That bait can spin like 270 degrees on most baits.
Might have to do a video on how to tie.
In terms of treble hooks that I change them out to, I know there's not really a good one out there right now. The good one got erased off the internet. But in terms of hooks that I switched them to, last fall I started using the Owner STX 38 in a size 8, and those are great hooks. This year we got Ichikawa a couple weeks ago, and those number size 8s are even a little bit thinner wire. I'm really excited to get those tied up on some baits for this year.
Those are the G Finesse or whatever?
Those Ichikawas are no Ichikawa.
It's a new brand. Yeah.
Huh.
A little bit different bend in it. It's got a way bigger guard, or not a barb, than the G Finesse hooks.
But they have
that's probably the biggest advantage to them.
Sure. But super sharp.
They've got that same coating, really strong hooks.
Yeah. So on a blade bait like the Vault, you're using an 8, right? Are you using that for anything else? Like is it like a good Mega Bass hook replacement, the Ichikawa? And what size would you use on that?
I'm probably changing. If I'm throwing a 110, it's probably going to go to a number 6. On a 110, depending on the blade bait, you could get away with a 7 or a 6, I think. That Mega Bass blade bait, the Dyna Response, that one's a lot longer. You could definitely get away with a 7 or a 6 on that one. For the Vault, I'd probably just stick with an 8. I prefer the smaller hook just because then it doesn't get tangled up at all, and especially with the braid loops, you're usually pretty safe. Landing percentages are never super high on a blade bait, but when that's the only thing they'll bite, then you got to take what you can get.
Sure. Have you I mean, I've mostly used the blade bait going into winter, late in the fall. Have you played around with it early coming out of the spring at all, Jacob or Trey?
I have not. I have not gotten. There hasn't been a time where it's been fishable open water up here, like in season, to where I think it's beneficial. But it's always it's always on the deck late in the year.
Yeah.
Whether it's a river or lake or anywhere.
JP wants to know what size braid are you using to make those braid loops?
I've done it with 30 and 50, and 30's definitely a lot more manageable. Because you end up doubling the braid over through the eyelet of the bait to make the actual loop, and 30 moves a lot easier, and it fits through that gap a lot nicer. So I was just using 30-pound Power Pro or 30-pound 832.
Right, especially on something like this, right? I mean, if you were trying to do like braid loops for a swim bait or something, then you might want something heavier, like 50 or 65 or something like that, probably. But,
yeah.
You don't got one handy that you've converted, sure, right? It's not handy.
I don't. They're all out in the boat, which is not attached to the house. Otherwise, I would have.
What is this guy?
It's in a storage unit.
All right, we'll have to come back on next time Jacob comes on. He's going to have the braid loops. We'll revisit that. We'll highlight it. So stay tuned. Any other?
I'll have braid loops ready to roll next time. The blade bait's the only one that I've done it on.
Okay.
I could see it being useful on a swim bait, but I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would trust it on that big of a bait. I think, especially if you're fishing like an Arashi Glide or something, you have swinging hook hangers, so you've got that going for you.
Cool, very cool. So yeah, I mean, this is
Trey. Have you thrown the blade bait early in the year, like pre-spawn?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we throw blade baits or like dark sleepers. We just don't do a lot of blade baiting. It's pretty much jerk baits down here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have so much big boulders and rock and all that kind of stuff, and we just typically just stick to jerk baiting and then move from jerk baits to like wiggle worts.
Cool.
Gotcha.
Nice. So one of the other baits we want to talk about was, so this is new at Omnia, so it's just kind of a new bait, is the River Sea Tactical DD Crank 75. So this is, if you follow YouTube fishing videos and tactical bass, and you've probably heard about this, is a pretty popular 18-foot crankbait. And so the unique thing here is this is kind of new to Omnia because for a long time it was a Tackle Warehouse exclusive. So now you can get this at more places. And this is have you thrown it, Jacob, or you know guys that have done pretty well on it in Minnesota?
I have not personally thrown it. My buddy Aaron threw it this fall when I was with him, and he caught him with it.
Right. So
we were fishing it. He was catching them on that, and a couple of other crankbaits.
Yeah, I think.
But it's a cool bait. I mean,
Reminds
for
me
how
a
big it
little
is, and it's 3/4 of an ounce, you can sling it.
Yeah, it's kind of heavy for its size, but it really reminds me of the Risto Wrap almost in the shape and the.
Yep.
And it doesn't look like it would pull super hard. Like it's got a fairly, thin lip. I expect it not to be a super hard pulling deep diving crankbait. So, and it's got a pretty cool, like heavy, one knocking kind of weight transfer that I think will help. I don't know if you can see that. There's like a big main. I'm guessing it's steel or tungsten in there to make this thing cast pretty good. I bet. So yeah, this is co-developed with
on the price point of it. I bet it's tungsten.
Yeah. So Matt Allen and the other guy,
Tim Little.
Tim Little.
Yeah. So the last bait we're going to talk about is one that I was pretty excited about that I've had my eye on for a while. I was glad you guys got him in. Is the X Zone Adrenaline Crop. So if you guys have watched my videos, you know I'm a big like Meniscrub guy. Like Meniscrubs on everything, like jigs, swim jigs, chatterbaits. But here's the new Adrenaline Craw from X Zone, which in my mind, it's like, to me, it's like a Z Craw and a Meniscrub had a baby, and in a good way. I don't know. That's so there. I'm gonna make that's not quite working there. But so there it is next to the Meniscrub. So it's got a bigger profile for sure. So it's a little bit bigger like a Z Craw, but and then the it's kind of got something similar, a little more aggressive flanges than the Meniscrub. So I think it's going to kick a little harder. And then you've got more ribs to the body. So I expect it to move a fair amount of water. And then I think that this plastic from X Zone floats a little bit higher. Tim says he's had some luck with the tactical crank, for those that are wondering. But I see this as being a really good all-around bait for me. And I'm definitely going to be trying this on, flipping jigs, swim jigs, bladed jigs, football jig trailers. I mean, I think there's just a ton of applications. As much as I found with the Meniscrub when I want to like beef up a little bit. So I could definitely see like my 3/8 ounce jig having a Meniscrub and my 1/2 ounce jig having something with a little more heft and bulk to it. And I can see this being a good flipping bait. I got it rigged up on a bladed jig. I mean, I think there's a lot of applications. You could fish it horizontally like this, or you can turn it vertically. I just trimmed a little bit off of that, just like 2 of the spines. But I don't know. What do you think of the adrenaline bug, Trey?
I'm waiting to pick up some soon. As soon as I saw it, I wanted to just give them a try.
Yeah.
Exo makes some good stuff. So Jim over there, it looks like a whole just like flipping punching bait, especially for down here.
For sure.
So, jig trailer, spinner baits.
Yeah, Darius and Don both say wobblehead. I could see that for sure.
Yeah, wobblehead.
I just like, I spend a lot of time like Instagram, Facebook, right? And you just see baits. And the first time I swiped by that, I was like, what's that? Like, that was like, that's something that will be in my tackle box. Like, so yeah, that's cool. So
I think it's that perfect mix between a Meniscrub and a Rage Craw.
Right.
It's that perfect like in between bait between the Finesse Meniscrub and a really kicking Rage Craw. I think it finds its spot right between those two.
Yeah, I think
that's what is it, a 4.5 inch? 4 inch?
Yeah, 4.25 is what they call it.
Yeah, it's a good size.
Yeah, I mean, like big enough to generate a big bite, you're not going to miss many bites flipping that. I don't know. There's a lot to that. I mean, like, pretty excited to try that out. They got some good colors. So anybody, you guys see any baits that you liked? Obviously, you can use the code HellaBass Spring 15 scrolling down the bottom at Omnia for any of this stuff. So if you saw anything that you liked, love to hear what you guys thought of this segment. Just a way for us to bring some new baits, some new ideas, some new techniques to you guys. Love to hear your feedback and what you thought of Jacob's debut on the stream.
Just call.
And hopefully next time we can do some more actual data behind it.
Yeah, so in the future, we plan to have a little more planning, have a little more data, maybe like reference some actual fishing reports and give you a little more data. So the idea is really like, this is not just to like push baits, but more to give you guys idea on what's new, what's happening, what's working, and really educate and, kind of teach you guys what's working and where it's working.
Yeah,
Joe?
I'd love to be able to like share with people like how many baits have sold over an X period of time and have whatever baits are highlighted. That's what we bring on and show what's actually moving. Rather than just trying to sell it, show people that it's actually selling.
Yeah, absolutely. Walt said, good job. Welcome aboard. Don says he likes it.
Thank you, Walt. I saw William's comment. I think William was calling me out for it being too cold for me to go somewhere. To clarify, my boat is about 20 minutes from my house. So I would not have made it back in time.
Well, we'll be on for at least an hour.
Yeah, it's 40 degrees, which is fine. I'm not afraid to run out to the truck.
Joe says, if 99% of the country is throwing red right now, if you're going against the grain, what other colors?
I mean,
I think the one color that the spring craw color, right? This orangish chartreuse is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And I think it depends on your water color or on your water clarity, right? So like when I highlighted this on the video, right? Like if you have really clear water where you live, something more of a phantom craw, like a brownish craw where your reds are a little more muted can be really good. But otherwise chartreuse or your shad colors. Your shad colors with tints of purple or chartreuse, those will work great too, depending on the body of water.
Yes, that is an OSP Blitz.
Yeah.
And that's a 8XD.
The X Zone does not come in a smaller size, but they do have other baits like their muscle craws and things like that that come in smaller sizes. Bob says he's all in on the new trailers. Lots of good stuff. So I don't know if you want to hang out for a while or you got any questions about reels for Trey, Jacob, or what your plans are, but you're more than welcome to hang out or if you got stuff to do, either way.
I think I'll hang out for a while. I might sneak out at some point, but I'll hang out for a little while.
Cool. All right. So we're going to get back to we were just starting to talk about reels and getting into that. And we were talking about the differences. I think we were kind of highlighting like Shimano comes pretty heavy with grease. Daiwas are really dry. And you're kind of highlighting some of that. So I think really understanding the reels you're buying and kind of like what you want to do. So some of them you talk about like, hey, you want to like clean them up, right? Because they some so heavy, right? And other ones you want to add just a little bit just to even get started. And that just experience, or is there like a good a place to get information for that kind of stuff?
Oh man, pretty experienced. I mean, it's tough. A lot of those reels are made in the same factory, so they all get the same amount of grease or very little grease. Like Blues, Abu, higher end Caskins, anything that says Korea is typically made in the same factory. So
basically, everything that's not Daiwa is probably coming with too much grease, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just crazy how little grease Daiwas come with, which is not a terrible thing. It's just, I mean, you got to have grease on your gears. I mean, it's a metal to metal friction. They're using plastic gears and all that kind of stuff. So a little bit of grease is a lot better than no grease.
For sure.
And, I always tell people it's, a little goes a long way. So
what's a good sign when you pick up, I mean, like, I guess if you pick up a new reel, what's a telltale sign that you need to get in there and like degrease it and start over? Like, are there sounds, feelings, warning signs from your perspective?
I would say feel. If it feels like it's stuck in mud, it's over greased. I mean, you're going to have grease slung everywhere inside of the frame. And I've seen reels where customers have sent in and they have worked on them themselves, and they just use the entire quart jug of synthetic grease. And you open it up and you're just like, I mean, I could use this for my car. So, yeah, I mean, most of the reels you buy straight out, you can just go fish them. That's no doubt. But a lot of guys want to get the best out of their reels. You know, guys are spending $200, $300, $400, $500 on reels, and they want the best performance out of them.
Yeah. So what do you get? Like, so when you go in and clean one of these reels and then kind of like re-oil it or grease it with the right amount, what kind of typical performance increase are you seeing or people see?
Smoothness, consistency. You know, that's for stock stuff. And then you start upgrading the spool bearings. I mean, you can go as far as upgrading spool bearings, handle knob bearings,
Sure.
just taking out all the bushings and making it as frictionless as possible. So you can have something as smooth as possible.
Yeah. So maybe before we get into super tuning, let's talk maybe a little bit more about like, so what are there things that you suggest? Like, obviously, like if they don't want to like touch it, right? Like you can go to the Reel Tuning and Cleaning Facebook link that I posted earlier, and they'll be in the description below. And if you know, they can send them to you and have you do them. But like, what are some basic like cleaning tools, methods, and like what is there a product you suggest for like re-oiling and re-greasing that's a good choice?
Yeah, so here's a just Daiwa Pixie, one of my personal reels.
No big deal. It's just a Pixie, Jacob. I mean,
it's like super tricked out, you know. I use a lot of cotton swabs. If you want to if you want to get rich quick, go buy stock in like Johnson & Johnson cotton swabs, because I buy millions of them. It's a really cheap, easy way to clean your reel on the fly. You know, just you can get in between, you know, the worm gears and the outside of the reel and that kind of stuff, and clean them up. Another product, I don't know if you guys saw them at Omnia, Lucas Oil. Great oil. This is a great all-around.
I don't, but if it's something you think we need, then we can look into it.
Just a great all-around oil. It's a synthetic oil. You can use it on pretty much every part of your reel. And then this is what I use is the Daiwa Space Age grease. And I've got 30 or 40 of those because it's really hard to get because it has to come shipped from Japan. So that's the only really grease stuff that I use.
So, but you should have plenty of it because they don't put any on their reels. So,
yeah, no kidding. I'm like, you have this, guys. You have vats of it. Use it.
Yeah. I think this is a good question from Punch Fishing. Can you explain the difference between bushings and bearings, and what does that mean in reels for people?
Okay, so I think the biggest misnomer on looking at buying a reel is this X reel over here has 14 bearings, but then a Shimano has 3. So then they think the 14 bearing reel that costs $59 is better than the $250 4 bearing reel from Shimano. And that's because the Shimano's using higher quality bearings. Shimano and Daiwa take the top of the bearings, and then everybody else gets the second pick, third pick, whatever. Shimano likes to use a lot of bushings for the fact that their reels are made to be used in saltwater. And you don't want bearings in saltwater just because a lot of people just don't clean their reels or rinse them off. So that's why they use a lot of bushing. Bushings are typically used on the slower moving parts, like the end of the worm gear, because you don't need 17,000 RPMs on the worm gear, opposed to the spool, which is 25,000 RPM.
Sure.
So it's just, 14 bearings doesn't mean it's a better reel. It just means it has 14.
It's more about the quality of the bearing than the number of them, what you're saying.
Yeah, and Shimano, Daiwa cut their gears. Shimano is a gear company. They are a bike company. They make gears, so they make excellent gears. And that's why they're so smooth.
Right. Logan wants to know, why does the T-wing on his Tatula stick when I go to push the button to cast?
It's probably because it's a dry reel.
So you need some oil in there, is what you're saying.
Probably some grease. So
Grease? Okay.
when you hit the thumb bar, there's like a little clutch, and it moves the pinion, or it moves the T-wing. It has to like rotate it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's dry, it's going to take a little more effort. You know, it could be getting broken inside. It's just hard to tell.
Okay. So first thing, pull it apart, see if you can clean it or add some grease to it.
Yeah, and he'll pull it apart, and it'll be pretty much dry as a bone.
Sure. Unless he got something in it from fishing somehow. But
yeah, I mean, if you're fishing like sand or dirt or something like that, it can get underneath the clutches and create friction.
Daniel wants to know, can you add bearings to the level line on the new Zillions?
Ooh, I think so. I've got a new Zillion, and I don't remember if I did it or not. I think I might have. I think there's one on the inside, but I also upgraded the handle knob bearings as well. But I have to bust it open again.
Okay.
I've worked on like 500 reels since that reel. So
who's going to get the most Zillions at Omnia? And Trey, how many Zillions should Jacob get?
all of them.
All of them?
Yes. It's a.
Pete's gonna buy. I think Pete said he wanted 3. So
it's a really good reel. So the US version is going to come with a 100mm handle and brass gears. The Japanese version has an aluminum gear and a 90mm handle, so it's a little bit lighter. But it's an awesome reel. It's a cool reel.
Right. So for those that not sure what we're talking about, I think it's this one.
Yep, that's it. Is it going to be 350? Yeah, 349.
So if you guys are interested in this new reel that Trey speaks so highly of, you go to Omnia and you just click which one gear ratio you're most interested in, get email notifications. So when they do come in, you'll be the first person to know, and you can get in there before, well, Pete and Jacob will get theirs. And then once they get theirs, then you can be the first one to get the rest of them.
Hey, Jacob, do you know when they're slated to be in your shop?
I do not. They don't have an ETA on it.
Insider
I know it
trade.
shouldn't be terribly long.
Yeah.
But I don't have a date.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say a date and then look like an idiot that was just spewing dates.
There's a lot of unknowns now with all the shipping and COVID and production.
Yeah. I know they're waiting to get more until so all the dealers can get at least a couple.
Yeah.
We've got more than a couple coming. I promise you that.
Oh, I'm sure with Pete.
So what Steve says,
he knows how to make some stuff happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cool. So what's so cool about the new Zillion SV? Like what is the most exciting part of it, Trey?
So it is a completely new redesign. It is the previous Zillion was a nice reel, but it was long in the tooth. So it's really small. I've actually got it in the boat. It's a smaller frame. It's lighter. The new SV boost spool. It's a dual stage spool. So on your typical Daiwas, it's got one spring, and the inductor just moves in and out. And then on this new SV boost, it's a dual stage. So it's got 2 springs. So it moves out, and then when it hits its like max peak cast, another spring kicks in, and so it gives you like an extra like oomph or like it's just more consistent through the casting range.
Nice.
It's just a really nice reel.
Got me itching to get one.
Trey, was the frame something you noticed?
Like material,
Did
or
it seem a little bit more rigid?
Yeah, it's
like rigidity to it.
Yeah, it's that same like Zillion, lineage of like being a solid tank of a reel. Like the Zillions have always been a great reel since like the early 2000s. it's just been a great reel, like your power workhorse reel.
Cool. Nice. Logan says best reel under 150. So, I mean, close to that for me, the two that popped to mind are the Tatula CT and the SLX XT.
Yeah.
Like in that, I don't know what you guys think, if there's a better one or another one to look at besides those two, but those would be the two in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, Tatula CT, SLX, Tatula 100, Lose Pro, maybe?
Sure. Yeah. Lou's got some good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I work on a ton of Lose.
Yeah. Connor says, do you guys recommend cleaning your reels often if you only have a couple?
It depends on how much you fish. If you fish 4 or 5 days a week and you're fishing mats of grass, you know, junk like that, I would probably do it every couple months. But typically, guys send them to me beginning of season, and then that's it. They're good to go for the whole season.
It's definitely going to extend the life of your reels if you clean them at least once a year, right? I mean,
yeah, for sure.
And we did talk about this earlier. If you want to go back and catch the replay, Connor, or rewind, but just the highlights, yes. I mean, like Daiwas in general need a little bit of something. They come pretty dry. Other reels sometimes come with too much grease, and you need to clean them and then re-oil or re-grease them with an appropriate amount. So,
yeah. And you can do a lot of stuff to them.
Let's see what's going on. Are there oil and grease applications we should avoid using? Like, is there any like bad stuff to like watch out for?
Quantum hot sauce.
Really? Okay.
I've almost refused to work on reels that come in with it. It's horrible. It tends to separate. Like the grease will separate over time. It'll go from a grease to a grease and an oil, and the red dye gets everywhere, and you just can't get it out. And it's pretty expensive stuff. I think the oil is like $10 or $11 now for the oil, and that Lucas stuff is like $5 for it. And that, I mean, this little bottle here will last a normal person probably 2 years.
As long as you don't spill it.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a bunch of it, but.
Tim says absolutely never put WD-40 on a reel.
Or Vaseline.
Vaseline's bad?
Yeah. I've had reels come in with Vaseline.
Now, I can say in a pinch, it's probably not the best advice, but I have sprayed some Bang on my reel when I was like out fishing just to like get through the day.
Bang, so buddies have used Bang or the Real Magic spray in a pinch.
Yeah, I mean that's like a temporary thing. That's not a long-term solution.
No, it's water based, so it's going to evaporate anyway.
Yeah, this is a pretty good, interesting. So what's a discontinued reel that people should be looking for that you think is like just a great reel, great frame, great technology, or maybe a couple? Like watch for these on eBay or garage sales or whatever that you think is just like something to have to clean up and refurbish.
I would say the TDZ, the Daiwa TDZ. That was an awesome frame reel. One of the best reels that Daiwa ever made. The original Shimano Curados, like the CB200s, awesome reels. The Curado
E's, yep.
Awesome reel. The only problem is getting parts for them is getting harder and harder to get. But, I mean, if you want to buy one for $120, dude, they're great reels.
Yeah. Or buy a couple of them and hopefully, like buy 3 of them and hopefully you can make 2 good ones out of them. Like.
Yeah. Parts reels. I just worked on 2 original Curados and they were like near mint condition.
What about the Chronarch D?
Awesome reel.
Yeah.
Awesome reel.
That was one of my favorites for sure.
I still got one. Great reel.
Let's see. That's good. Tony says, can you put bearings in Bradley Hallman's Chinese reels?
Oh man. Tony and I go back and forth on that.
Nice. So have you dabble a little bit on YouTube? I know I've seen a lot of your Dobyns Rods videos. Have you done any like reel videos or like any cleaning, or is that like you don't want to do that because that's what you have people send them to you for?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of toyed with it. Like everybody asks, like, oh, I should do painting videos and reel videos. And I'm like, I don't really want to give away some of the stuff I do.
Right.
Just because, I mean, yeah, send them to me.
Yeah. there's a couple things. Well, I think you could probably do like some real basic stuff, right? Because if somebody sends you a reel, you're going to probably like you're paying for premium cleaning, right? Like and service.
Yeah, full breakdown.
But there's probably a room for a good video on like, here's the basic things. Like if you only got like 20 minutes, like here are the basic pull apart, clean these major components, right?
Yeah, like a quick kind of like a, you know, you can do on the water actually. There's stuff. Like I've done like breakdowns of the new Zillion, a couple other reels I got in. Like I've broken them completely down just to show people like, you know, this is the gear material that's being used in them.
Mm-hmm.
But
and I think to do a full clean, that would be a really either long video or one that would be a huge pain to edit because of all the like fast forwarding and downtime like you'd have to do to like make it a watchable video, because it would literally have to be a live stream like this to like go through it all.
Yeah, it'd be a long video.
Any concerns about line conditioner getting in your reel?
No, because it's all water based.
That's a good question.
Okay, that's a good question.
I've never had any issues. I spray every single reel I own, like with Real Magic stuff.
Sure.
Pretty much religiously.
What is the cost of a cleaning? That's a good question. We didn't.
Standard cleaning's $20, and then it goes up from there to like 55 if you're doing bearings, and depending on the reel. I mean, it can go up from there and there if you're doing upgrade bearing.
The cleaning is 20, but a tuning like that. I mean, that varies widely, right? So
yeah, so $20. That's a full breakdown, clean, flush, all that kind of stuff, and then I do a polish, and then I can do bearing upgrades.
Mm-hmm. What's the turnaround? And
turnaround is a couple days because I'm doing it pretty much 8 to 10 hours a day.
Nice.
Except for next week. And then shipping is like, it really depends. I've got guys that ship me 25 reels and it costs them $70 to ship, or you can ship them for like $8. It just, you know, if you want to insure them, if you don't.
So it's $20
when I
reel
said
plus
Trey reels, it was insurance that gets you.
Yeah.
For sure. So I mean, like you got to cover the shipping, and then do you charge the shipping on the way back then, or?
Yeah. So if they ship them to me, I just wait for them to get here, and I look at the tag of receipt, and then I just double it. I just add it to their bill. So if they pay $50, it's 50 my way and 50 their way.
Right. If they insure it on the way to you, you insure it on the way back. If they don't, then
yeah, most guys. I mean, if you pack them well enough, you're fine. But
it really just
sending me like $4,000 in reels, and I understand they want to insure it, so it's not a problem.
Yeah, it's more the occasional package that they lose is the bigger concern than breaking a reel. So
yes, and knock on wood, it's been good. So
yeah, I heard a horror. I mean, speaking of, I mean, like not reel related, but I heard a horror story with Buka. He was having he sent out like just giant box of bull shads or something to a custom painter. They got them all painted, and then they shipped them back to Buka. So we're talking about an expensive bait, an expensive paint job, and then they lost them. Like it was like $3,000 worth of baits.
Yeah, and it's not even like the money. Like for custom paint, it's just all that time that just got wiped out. Like, it's
well, and the time for, I mean, like that's a handmade bait as well. So it's do you Punch Fishing says it doesn't see many spinning reels on your social media. Do you not do spinning reels?
I try not to. I don't own a single spinning reel out of the 48 reels I own. I own 0 spinning reels.
Which will lead into our BFS topic here shortly.
Which goes into this guy right here.
Nice. What's the most reels you've sent or gotten at one time?
Like 35.
Yeah.
40. Guys that fish tours and stuff, they just send me all the reels. And
sure. He's located just west of St. Louis. Shout out to Jacob's Flannel.
For those that don't know, Nick's Omnia's most recent hire. So
all right. Pete's donating a TDZ reunion show.
What?
I like it. A giveaway. All right. Very nice. Sounds good. Somebody screenshot this.
I bet Pete's got
remind Pete
some
that he
hidden
said
treasures.
Like we need to screenshot this so Pete knows that he said this. He's probably like 3 bourbons in. He doesn't remember that he said it.
Yeah, he's probably got a couple of these in him. So
Yeah, awesome, Bob. Yeah, Bob found
Hey,
himself
you're
some
getting
Plano
dogged
edge
right
boxes.
now. Good to hear. They'll ship
Awesome.
tomorrow.
With a note. Pete says he's good.
With
All
a
right,
note.
so we kind of segued in. We can come back to some real questions, but let's talk about the BFS.
Okay.
What is the BFS, Trey? Tell us what it is.
So it is Bait Finesse System. It is, all right, so it's ultralight bait casting. I mean ultralight. Like I can throw down to a 16th of an ounce, absolutely no problem. I can wing trout baits and 1.5 gram baits. And Dobyns just came out with two ultralight casting rods that I helped design and develop. That took way too long. They had a rod, I would say 12 or 13 years ago, the DX701C Finesse. And at that time, nobody knew what BFS was. Nobody had a clue what it was. So it really just didn't sell. So he killed it. And I had a couple of them, showed a bunch of people. They loved it. I've caught so many giant smallmouth on the combos. And I've tried over the years to get Gary to come back with it. He was reluctant. We finally got it done late last year, after like 9 or 10 months of going back and forth with suppliers because COVID absolutely killed everything. So there's a 7-foot version and then the 7'4" version, and they are 0 power, 1/16 to 5/16.
So these are rated 2 to 8 pound line, rated for a 16th to basically a quarter. And I think the other thing that's unique about them, I think they have there's something about the tip, right? Yeah, solid carbon tips, right? Because with a standard graphite tip, it would be so tiny, right, that they would be really easy to snap. But these have a carbon tip. Right?
Yeah, so I mean it's hard to show because it's like really long rod. But the prototypes we got in had like 7 guides, but we went to I think 13 micros.
Mm-hmm.
So, or 15. I mean, it's a lot. On the 7'4", it's 15 or 16, and the end of the tip is tiny. I mean, it's like hair thin. So they had to go to pure carbon because you couldn't get a cylindrical piece of graphite to go that thin.
Yeah,
and it's awesome.
And they are for sale on the Dobyns rods. So if you're like people are interested in this like crazy finesse baitcaster, do you know is anybody else carrying them? Like,
I think American Legacy maybe.
Okay.
I think that's it though. I don't know how many they got in. I know Gary, the first shipment they got in sold out in like 2 hours through their site, and then I guess I got more in. So
nice. What's up, Gabe? Good to see you. So from your perspective, why BFS? Why not throw a spinning rod? What would this give us the pros and cons of like? Because I feel like Jacob and I are more like if we're gonna finesse, we're gonna throw spinning rods. So why the BFS?
You guys are from the north. You're used to it. I've always just hated spinning reels.
Mm-hmm.
They just seem so inefficient on casting, weight wise, gear ratio, line management issues. Granted, you can go to braid on a spinning reel and kind of delete that line management issue.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like the swim bait guys. I mean, guys are nuts about swim baiting. And now it's the complete opposite spectrum where guys want to throw tiny little micro baits for trout and smallmouth. And I don't know. I've always done it. I've done it for 10 or 12 years. And it's an absolute blast. Like people go nuts when I walk up to the trout park and I'm casting a 16th ounce little spinner and they're like on their fly rods and I can go in and catch a couple trout on 4-pound line on a baitcaster.
So have you like what applications? I mean, I get the trout and all that stuff, but like for bass fishing, like what are some? Do you like throw the hair jigs with them and stuff like that?
Hair jig, Ned rig, drop shot. I do like small rattle traps, small jerk baits, anything really small.
Okay.
But Ned rig, I throw a ton of Ned rigs on them.
But I think part of this, though, right? Like the rod is one part of this, right?
Yeah.
But you can't just take a $99 average baitcaster and think you're going to cast a 16th ounce jig on a BFS rod, right? Like what do you need from a reel standpoint?
Reels typically really shallow spool, like really shallow. 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't love spinning rods, but I'm okay with
not
it.
connecting me.
Like I can't. I don't know. It seems almost too niche, but I can see why some people love it. So
this is like a Daiwa Elfis Airstream, and you can almost see the spool through the line.
Mm-hmm.
It just allows you to have better startup inertia on really light baits. I mean, it's designed for ultralight stuff.
Sure. So like are you normally casting to the spool most times almost, or?
No, I mean, it holds enough. I mean, this is like 4-pound Missouri hybrid, which
Sure.
is typically like 7-pound normal line. So it's got enough. Like the Pixies and stuff have plenty of line.
So what is the least expensive reel that you think does a good job for the BFS? Like
there's a Cast King Zephyr. There's a couple like Cast King stuff. They make a bunch of like, I think they're like $70-$80 maybe. So it's not terrible. Now you can get into the higher Daiwas and Shimanos, like the Aldebarans and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you can start out pretty cheap.
Yeah. So we're just talking about that. Like, I was just wondering where JJ was, but he kind of was asking that same question. So what are some other popular kind of like stock reels that are easy to get for the BFS?
Daiwa Pixie. You can find them used for $125, $150. Aldebarans, Daiwa. What else do I got? Like, there's just different variants of the Pixies. And that's a great just finesse, all-around finesse reel. You can use them for crankbaits and spinnerbaits and, anything small.
Yeah. And so you're always fishing like a straight fluoro or co-poly or something, or?
Yeah, either co-poly or fluoro. I'll do a braid, do a leader if I need to. But typically, like when I'm up north fishing for smallmouth and stuff, it's fluorocarbon.
Okay. Let's see here. Walt says he tossed his spinning reels out last year. One of those alphas Trey just held up. There's also a few AliExpress specials, he said.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff that and that's why the BFS market exploded in the last, I'd say, 3 years, is because the Chinese market came out with all these BFS reels that were affordable for people to kind of dip their toe in without dropping like $400 on a reel or $300, whatever.
JJ says, is the stock Aldebaran work, or do you need to change the spool?
No, you can do stock. Aldebaran's a great little reel.
What about the Kratos 70?
You can do the Corrado. I mean, like if you're throwing Ned rigs and stuff, I mean, that's.
So it depends how light you're going, right? If you want to throw a tiny trout bait or a hair jig, probably not. But if you want to do a drop shot and a Ned rig, the Kratos 70 is just fine.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect. Because, I mean, you think the Ned, you're doing 1/10 of an ounce or 8, whatever, plus the Ned's pretty heavy bait anyway.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I don't know if I'm on board with the BFS, but I totally get why some people like it, for sure.
It's fun. It's different.
I mean, you're throwing lighter line on your BFS than I am on most of my – people are sending me the requested screenshot that I asked for. Wondering when my phone was lighting up. But, yeah, I mean, like you're talking about 4-pound, 7-pound. I don't typically even dip down that low with my spinning rods. I rarely ever drop below 8-pound on a braid to fluoro. So,
yeah, I mean, I do it just because it's a whole lot more enjoyable for me and other guys to like fight a fish instead of just like when I jig fish, I'm ripping 25-pound of Braze X or Tatsu and I just yank them in the boat. Yeah. But you start playing with that BFS stuff, you got to play the fish and fight them, and it's a pretty good time.
Yeah, cool.
On a side note, Pete
I was
sent
going to say,
his,
here's
his
the
TDZ.
mentioned
It's ready.
reunion reel. We're gonna bring this back to life and do a giveaway show sometime in the future. That's the Pete's donated old workhorse reel.
TDZs are great reels.
Cool. What's up, YouTube? Cuz yeah, he says for trout and bass. I mean, if you love to trout fish and pass fish like that, I mean, like that's got the ideal setup.
Crappie fishing. Like I used my BFF setup this fall and was catching crappie on it, throwing like a 16th ounce little crappie jig. It's just crazy. It's just nobody does it. So
nice. It's kind of like a growing trend, right? Like this is like no different than like it's this just getting those weird niches, right? Like the ultra finesse, the big baits are, you know, kind of niche, right? Like the super big baits. So it's all part of like niching down in certain parts of fishing that kind of bring different people, different, you know, levels of joy and excitement to do things unique.
It's the complete opposite spectrum of throwing a 17-ounce swim bait, you know,
250 depths and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, guys are throwing $500 swim baits, massive rods, reels, all that kind of stuff, and they're obsessed about it. I mean, Buka and all those guys, KGB, and now you have the BFS sector, which has exploded in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
it's on the other side of the spectrum. So
you're kind of a real guru. What would you say is your rarest or a couple of your rarest reels in your collection?
I don't know if it's, I mean, so this would probably be my rarest reel. This is a TDZ, but it is painted Lamborghini Gallardo orange from the factory overseas. So it is a one-of-a-kind.
Let's see that again, a little bit bigger. I got you.
It is a one-of-a-kind, fully tricked out. It's got like 13 orange steel bearings, carbon handle, fully custom spool, just an SV spool. But it is the Lamborghini Gallardo orange. Actually,
Trey, can you put a BFS spool in a TDZ? Pete wants to know.
Think so. You can do an SV spool. Actually, that new the Zillion spool fits in the TDZ. It's the exact same size. It swaps right in. So you can put that SV boost spool in the TDZ. But I don't think it's any improvement or anything because it's different braking on the side plate.
Gotcha.
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah, just reminder, guys, like I think there's a lot of people enjoying this show. We've been hovering right around 100 live viewers between the Facebook and YouTube. So if you guys can remember to hit that like, share it out a little bit. I mean, I think people that are here are really enjoying what we're talking about tonight. So if you can help us reach a few more people, that would be awesome. This is an interesting question. Have either of you guys tried the Pisky Fun or Pissy Fun reels? Have you held one? I've never held one.
You know, I rarely get in the Cast Kings or the PC Funds or what is it, Six Gill or any of that stuff. I hardly ever get those in.
But
or even
I think,
favorite reels.
I mean, because I think there's a price point, right? Like you're not going to spend $20 to clean a $50 reel probably most often, right? I mean, that's kind of the...
Yeah. I mean, really, honestly, like one of the best reels like for the money is the Bass Pro Shops Pro Qualifier.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they do the reel trading, I think you get it for like $60, and it's a great reel for that price.
I guess somebody's Walt says that they have some interesting looking BFS reels. So
yeah, all those branded OEM companies are
yeah, that's funny, Brandon.
Oh man.
Hey, call space bait.
I got no comment on that.
So I guess back to the reel tune, and we talked about cleaning reels, and you do reading. What are some of the most common upgrades that people do? Like what is your bread and butter? Like what do people like to do? Just bearings, and where are those bearings going in reels? Like what bearings are you specifically replacing?
Pretty much typically just the spool bearings. So Shimano Daiwa typically have only 2 spool bearings. Lew's Abus have 3 spool bearings. and that's pretty much my number one upgrade that I do. I go through thousands and thousands of bearings.
And those are, is that just what, casting distance basically, or what do you get?
Yeah, so it's going to be distance, ease of casting, consistency, and you can cast smoothness of the reel, and then slightly lighter weights.
Okay.
Because they are a ceramic hybrid, so it's an ABEX 7 ceramic hybrid. So it's ceramic balls and a stainless steel race or bearing shield.
Okay. And so what is that like? So that's the basic upgrade people do. So you go on the cleaning and the basic upgrade.
Yeah.
So that's what, 50 you said?
Yeah, so like for Daiwas, the full works is 45, and then for like Luz and Abus, it's 55 because it's an extra bearing. And my pricing on Bocas is absolute best you'll find, period. Just because I've sold them for 12 years, so I've got a good relationship with those guys.
Nice. CJ says the best $25 you'll ever spend. Cool. So for people that like, okay, like that's cool, right? That's your basic upgrade. Like what are some other cool things you do for people, like for people that really want like to get stuff tricked out or fancy, or like what are some of the other more, I don't know, steps up like that you do or that are still common?
If you want to go full balls out, I mean, you can go straight ZPI, handles, knobs, drag stars, frame screws, cast control knot. I mean, you can go spend $200 on a reel, and then you can send it to me, and I will spend your $400 to get it tricked out.
Okay.
Like, it's crazy.
Sky's the limit,
Like,
really, on like tricking out a reel.
Yeah, I mean, ZPI handles are typically $125 just for the handle. Just for the handle. And you're like saving like a fraction of an ounce of weight. Like, yeah, it's essentially like you're saving a couple grams, and that's maybe about it. People say maybe sensitivity. I don't, who knows? It's carbon fiber.
That seems like a big disconnect, like from point A to point B.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can go like swept handles, carbon swept handles, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's crazy stuff, man.
It's kind of like the guys that like get a Harley for like 20 some grand and they put another 10 gram of chrome on it, right? So it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and a lot of guys, will want they want to color match their reel to go with the rods or the technique they're using, so they can just look at that color and be like, all right, so that's moving baits, that's vertical stuff, that's whatever, just keeps it organized for them.
I have put some orange reel grips on my extremes at time.
I mean,
that's like $5.
Yeah, I match like my rod socks to my Dobyns series, and that's really about it.
I have to match my rod gloves to my rods. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, thoughts on the Bocas versus ZPI versus Hedgehog?
3 different styles of bearings. For the money, Bocas, ZPI makes a fantastic, great bearing. They're going to be a little quieter. Hedgehog makes a great bearing, especially like their really finesse bearings. They have really small, very small ball bearings, so there's less startup and less friction on them. But for general maintenance, Bocas, just because they're a great all-around bearing.
Jack says
J-Dubs.
I don't know what he's talking about. Like, I have no issues with my SV, but I think he probably doesn't have any oil in it. It's probably dry.
Who? Where?
Jack's the only person I know that has issues with them.
He says, is it possible to make an SV actually feel smooth? It probably needs a little bit of oil and grease in there. It's probably too dry. We talked about that early on. Is it possible to change the gear ratio in a reel? Or
yes, if the gears are available, yeah, you can change them. So if you want a faster Tatula SV, you can get like the 8-to-1s and 7-to-1s. They all swap in the same frame. But parts are just a pain to get right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially from Daiwa.
Punch says a ZPI is going to make their own reels instead of selling parts.
Yeah, so they've been making their own reels for 18 months, and they stopped doing most of their trick parts, but their reels are coming from Korea.
Inexperience. I don't know. Is this
Livery? Yeah, they're typically like Shimano livery handles. They're like these cool like aluminum handles. They're awesome looking. They're nice, expensive, but
yeah. All right. So White Whale, bringing us back to earth here. We've been talking about like spending $400 on upgrades. What are some good budget rods and reels? And we've touched up on this a few times. He kind of came late. What did you mention? You thought the best bang for your buck was what, that Bass Pro what?
I would say the Tatula CT, the Fuego, the Bass Pro Shops. I'm drawing a blank now. Carbon, whatever it is. I can't think of it now.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what. Partly like White Whale. What is, when you say budget rod and reel? What does budget mean to you? That's a tough question. Like, but
yeah, I mean, if you want like that sub $100, the Fuego, I think you can find even SLXs for under $100. Really,
I think it's easier to find good reels at a low price than it is rods, to be honest, these days. So
yeah,
but I think it's real for $225, 200 with a little. If you use my code, you can get a really good combo for $200.
yeah, I mean, you can get. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. Daiwa makes good rods for.
Yeah. Let's get this one here. What are Trey's thoughts on aluminum versus brass gears? And do you see a lot of issues with Daiwa's aluminum gears?
No, Daiwa's been using like a hardened gear material, like a hardened aluminum. Brass is going to be more durable just because it's a really hard material. It's going to be heavier. And that's why the new Zillion US version is coming with brass gears, because US anglers are power fishermen typically. So they want the brass gears.
So I think it kind of depends on what you're doing, right? So like for most of your stuff, your reaction baits, casting football jigs, like all that, I mean, like you're not going to ever know the difference, right? But if like on your frog rod, on your punching rod, on your big swim bait rods, that's when you probably want to make sure you have brass gears.
Gears. Yep. Aluminum is going to be a little bit smoother just because it's a little bit softer material. But I mean, I think one of the best Daiwas that they ever made is the Steez A. And that's a hardened aluminum, like brass aluminum, whatever it is. But
yeah. So anything you're winching on, think about brass, but otherwise the aluminum's probably the way to go.
Yeah. I mean, Shimano uses a ton of aluminum gears.
So this is an interesting question, Brennan, but I guess it probably depends on what Credo you're talking about. Like, I mean, that's kind of open, right? Like, are we talking about the old ones? Are we talking about the E's? Are we talking about the G's? Are we talking about the K's? Like, we need a little more, I think, right?
If I gave you a Corrado on $100, what would you do to make it feel better?
I mean, right? You want to kind of need to know which Corrado we're talking about, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the worst Corrado they ever made was the Corrado G. That was kind of an abomination to the Corrado name.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was an off year for whatever reason. Manufacturing, I don't know if they switched factories, but
I don't think that's true, Bob. I don't know. I've not heard anybody else have any issues with that. So send me a message. I'll help you
Bob,
work
if
through
you're trying to buy the edge boxes, it won't stack.
Yeah.
Send Rich a message, or you can write in on Omnia. There's a
few other products that it doesn't work, but it works on most things.
Yep.
Oh, he's saying the 200K or the 70 MGL. What would you do with $100 upgrades on either one of those reels? Like, what would you?
I just did a Corrado K. I just did pretty much a cleaning and bearings and a polish on it. It's a pretty I mean, it's a solid reel. It's got brass gears and all that kind of stuff. It's a good power reel.
So it doesn't need much, right? Like, so you'd say clean, polish, bearings. Like, you don't even need to spend $100. Yeah,
not really. I mean, it's a solid. A lot of the Shimano stuff is, like the Ks, the SLXs, MGLs. They're some really good power reels. They're a little bit heavier. They're a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
but they're typically a power reel, opposed to like the new Daiwa SV. It's a pretty small reel.
Sure.
It's an awesome all around reel. But
Pacemaker says, are Bass Pro and Lose Reels the same?
if it says stamped in Korea, they're typically made in the same factory.
Evidently, Chad thinks I say Corrado funny. Well, how should I say Corrado? Like what?
It's a Minnesota accent, eh?
I mean, you're from Oklahoma. You're probably wrong, Chad. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I mean, I'm OG. I had the red Corrados back in the day. Like,
yeah, the original.
Yes.
Like,
I had that on a Loomis, like 804 or something like that, or 844 back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And now the Scorpions are red.
Optional.
Is there like
you'll have to get the optional scissors.
Optional scissors? Well, maybe you guys can get like the Arsenal braid scissors, and then like we could do a combo pack with some visors or something like that. But
a HellaBass special.
Yeah. Or if you order it and you write a note, I'll go into the shop and cut it. How's that? Put a special request in the note. It might take an extra day to ship.
Stop on his way home from work.
I'll go in and cut a hat for you if you want.
You can do that any day you want, Rich.
What's that?
You can do that any day you want.
Sounds good. Can I write some notes while I'm there?
Gladly.
What's the highest gear ratio you own?
8:1 to 1.
I think that's the same for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought about getting that Zillion 10, but I'm like, what am I going to use it for?
I mean, so I've heard a couple different things about this. This is a good discussion point, I think, in general for reels, since we're talking so much on reels tonight. Like back in the day, everybody said like, you go up in reels, you lose all your torque.
Right.
I've also heard the newer reels, because of the gears and the components are better, that's not as big a deal. What are your thoughts? Is that still an issue? Like, where do you think the sweet spot, and what are your thoughts? I mean, like, is it a big, has that changed over the years, or is it still the same thing that it was 20 years ago? Like, you lose power.
I mean, if you look at like 20 years ago, 6:3 to 1 was like the fastest gear ratio you could possibly buy.
Yep.
But the gears that they had in them were tiny. I mean, they were like the size of a quarter. And now you see some of the gears, and they're massive. So, 8:1 to 1s is what I flip with, and I have no issues forcing fish in. And my frog reels is 7:3 to 1. I haven't had any issues lately. I mean,
yeah.
If you use 8:1 to 1,
are you consciously going down to the 7 to 3 because of that for a frog, or is it just because you like that reel for frogging?
I just like that reel for frogging.
So, because we love a good frog, what's your frog setup?
It's gonna be a Dobyns Champion 736. Or 735. I throw a 736. And then the reel I've got on that is a Daiwa Zillion HLC that I swap gears to 7:3 to 1 and brass gears.
Nice.
And then 65-pound Seagar Smackdown. And then my frogs, I like the Jackal Caras, Jackal Gabacho, the Depth Slither K, discontinued True Tungsten second gens, which they're like 3 on eBay right now for $135.
What?
Yeah, that's a little rich for my blood. And I was
gonna say I got a whole bunch of them sitting over in that box over there.
40 of them. Yeah, I've got a ton of
We
them.
have to do. We should do a frog show when we come back and do the reunion show. We'll talk frogs.
Yeah, I love frogging. And watching Rubanus throw a frog in 50-degree water.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Nice. So many questions. Oh man. Yeah. So I'm the same. Back to that. For me. Yeah. Most of my stuff is 7 to 1. I've got a few 6 to 3s for a few of my reaction baits that just helps me slow down every once in a while. But most of my stuff 7 to 1, and I got a few 8 to 1s, which I like for like some of my like pitching. Not necessarily like flipping, but like pitching, right? Like if I'm real heavy, like then I kind of want that 7 to 1. I think least
Right.
mentally, that feels more right to me for like winching on them. How about you, Jacob? What are your thoughts on gears for reels, and what do you like?
I would say almost all of my reels are 7. I've got a couple of 8s. I was going to ask Trey, that new Zillion that came out, or that's coming, do you think that'll lose power if you go from a 7 to an 8?
For
If I'm doing a, I'm gonna put it on an 854, or yeah, an 854.
vertical flipping,
like an open water grass rod, like grass flipping rod, and then like a dock rod.
nah, you should be all right. Just because of the brass gears. You'd be
Okay.
good. I mean, I flip with the 8-to-1, like Steve's Limited, which is like a hybrid. So, yeah, that New Zealand shouldn't lose any of that power. But I really do think like 7-to-1 now, I think is the new 6-3-to-1. I think
As far as power, or just as far as like everyday use?
everyday use.
Yeah.
I think the real technology nowadays with like double bearing pinions and all that stuff, I think they've come so far, and you just don't lose that power in the gear ratios.
Yeah, I don't think you feel it as much either, because like back in the day, people love to crank with 5-to-1s, right? Because like back in the day, a 6-3, like if you were deep cranking, like it was hard to crank it. You'd feel the resistance. But now like you talked about the size of the gearings and all the stuff you talked about, you don't feel that through the reel, right? You don't like get tired of reeling a 7-to-1 on a deep crank. So is the Boom Boom Frog any good? I mean, as far as I know, the Boom Boom Frog is almost identical to the Champ 736 with a few tweaks. And
if he's talking about the frog, the actual like Boom Boom like frog.
I guess I don't know if you're talking about the rod or the frog. That's a good point.
Yeah, the rod's exactly the same as the Champ. It's just green.
Yeah.
But the frog, like the first Gen 1 was terrible. I hate to say it because it had the same profile body as the true Tungsten, that kind of like keeled body.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, he's made changes to keep the weight in and use a stronger glue on the that like Velcro stuff on the top. But it walked really easy. It skipped well. It had a good hookup ratio.
Yeah, decent for me. I mean,
yeah,
I've fished it a fair amount. It gets bit. I've had decent hookups. I don't know that I have enough data to say that like it's amazing or that it's bad. Right.
I'm with you, Rich. I've only fished it once.
Yeah, I mean the Velcro thing is dumb.
Yeah, so with the Velcro, you can. Yeah. I don't understand. I get it, but whatever. I know guys that put like a scent and stuff on the frog, but like it's a frog. It's getting blown up from the bottom. So
nice.
I'll stick to
I feel like there's so many frog questions we can't avoid this. I feel like we just gotta like steer into the skid at this point.
Right.
Who tosses the Slither K $20 frog? I don't own one. Favorite poppin' frog, and any thoughts on the River to Sea ish frog?
Poppin' frog would be like the Gabacho for me, or the what's the 6 cents one? The Vega frog. I think that's a poppin' frog.
Yeah, the Vega.
I mean, I think Vega's the Terminator poppin' frog is actually a pretty decent poppin' frog if you're looking for something a little more affordable.
It's a little bit bigger.
It's a little bit bigger. There's the Terminator poppin' frog. I have not thrown the ish frog much.
The fat mat or whatever.
Yeah. Is the Daiwa Catalina reel any good?
Say what? Oh, the pink one?
I don't know.
I think it's pink. It's a deep cranking reel.
Zoom frog. Have you tried it? It's pretty big, I guess.
No.
Me neither. What frog brands do you like? We talked about this earlier. Like I said, I think both Trey and I are big fans of these guys, but you can't get these anymore. This is the old True Tungsten.
I want that one in your left hand.
Is this my left? The white one?
Yeah. You just got to trim those feet a little bit.
Yeah, well, this one's trimmed.
Yeah. They're great frogs, man. They're super soft.
This one could use a new skirt.
Great frogs.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any. Oh yeah, this is my favorite color right here.
Yep. That looks like a first gen.
No, it's nice and soft. I have a whole box of those. They're my practice frogs and some other ones, and I'll feed those to the pike all day on the river.
Yep. Yeah, the first gens are a little stiff. They're Grinnell bait.
Another frog that I like that's discontinued is the Evolved Nervous Walker.
Okay. Yep.
Super soft as well. Bigger hooks, a little bigger profile.
It was kind of like a Coppers, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's not way different than a live target.
It looks really similar.
Yeah, but it's a little bit bigger, better hooks, softer. But current ones, I like the Terminator. I use a decent amount. Just the regular Terminator frogs. I think they're underrated, to be honest. I've played around with the boom booms a little bit, here's one of them. It's got that, like we talked about, the white. Let me find a non-white one because white shows up so terrible on stream. Yeah, here's a black and red boom boom for those that haven't seen this, but so it's got this little Velcro patch, which we can all agree is just gimmicky, but otherwise it walks nice. It's got pretty good hooks in it. The newer ones are soft. Durability, I haven't had any issues with, like, as I say, this one's missing a weight, so there you go.
Yeah, it's probably one of the early revisions because I had the same issue with it, and then I heard he changed it. So,
I guess here's a ish frog. I don't know that I've thrown it much, but I do have one. Spro's good. Booyoo, I think the Pad Crasher is great for the money frog.
It is.
I don't know any other frogs you guys want to throw out there.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard good things about the Jackal. I haven't fished them.
The Jackal Kara, that's a freaking sweet frog.
That thing gets bit.
It's small, but it's heavy. It walks really well, and it's nasty, sharp hooks, and it's a great little frog.
Yeah. White whale, we did a deep dive. You're going to have to catch the replay. We spent
skips well too.
20 minutes talking about the BFS. You're going to have to go back and catch that. 2.5 inch or 3 inch. I like the bigger Terminator frog. The small one's too small. The big one's bigger than normal, and the smaller one is too. I don't know. I like the regular size frogs. Yeah, I don't know what else is. I don't know. There's so many good frogs. The Strike King frog's pretty good, honestly. The Sexy Frog is a good frog for the money. If you're like on the river, you need a frog and you go into Gander, you can get the Spro, you can get the Pad Crasher, you can get the Sexy Frog, you can get the Terminator. There's a lot of decent frogs out there. I don't know, is there ones? What would you guys think of, like, more though, like what are frogs to avoid? Like frogs that you think are just like you're never gonna hook a fish. They're terrible.
Guggen frog.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Guggen frog. I've heard like terrible things about.
It
says bite me on it. Come on.
It's really hard. The rubber's really tough.
Yeah, that's a good question. When do you choose a popping versus a walking frog?
For me, I guess when bluegill, like when you can hear those gills like popping under pads or grass or under docks, usually like that May, June here is when you can hear them like sucking under the docks for like algae and stuff, or in the fall for shad. But
yeah, I'm probably 80-90% walking frog. I don't know. I just have a lot more confidence in the walking frog, and because we have so much vegetation in Minnesota, though, definitely like when you get around real thick stuff, that popping frog just tends to like grab too much stuff and it kind of reduces your inefficient. It makes you less efficient fishing the frog. So I do think you definitely want sparser or open water, for a popping frog. So if you're fishing a lot of bare banks and around like wood and riprap, I mean, a lot of the popping frog's probably a bigger part of your game. But if you're in like where we fish, where there's a lot of vegetation, a lot of paths, a lot of rice, a lot of duckweed, I think the walking frog is my day in, day out. Copper the Coonhound says hi.
I'm with you, Rich.
Hardbait frogs, avoid them like the plague, to be honest. I'd rather just throw a hardbait. I don't really need one that looks like a frog. A lot of paths, that guy sounds smart. Who's he?
A little bit of boy there.
Any upgrade suggestions for a Core 51 MG7?
I mean, bearings. Just it really depends on how much you want to spend.
Yeah. Any way to keep the weight in the Terminator? I have not had unusual problems with the Terminator. I would say it's normal amount of weight problems. I mean, it's like that's just like I don't know if there is a perfect frog that like never loses its weight, to be honest.
Those second gen true tungsten.
Jackals
are pretty good.
Yeah, I think toads have a place. I still like them every now and then, especially in like that when you find that right duckweed on the river where it just gurgles and it's just like not super thick, but just that thin, like or around eelgrass, that toad can be really amazing.
Yeah, and a lot of guys are putting those toads on buzz baits.
Yeah, but just I don't think a lot of people fish them naked anymore, which they definitely have a place.
Yeah.
Trash Panda garbage. I've heard same. I haven't tried one myself. Jay says he feels good about his tackle edition compared to the people that hang out in these streams and watching us. So if that helps you cope, Jay, we're glad to help. This is a safe place. There was somebody else that talked about the pop and perch. Have either of you guys fished the pop and perch?
I haven't.
I've been intrigued because, like, if you watch any of Todd's videos, right, he like talks them up and they sound amazing, and then you go into Tackle Warehouse and the reviews just destroy them. So I'm like, I don't know who to believe.
I think the other frog to stay away from is a live target gill sunfish.
Yeah.
That thing's bad. That thing is really bad.
You'd cast it and that thing would like hook to your left or hook to the right, and I'm like, you couldn't hook up on them. They're terrible.
Yeah, I think it seems like any of those. I mean, I think you're just better off going with a frog that's painted like a bluegill than trying to like go with any of those like bluegill frog style baits. From what I've seen, none of them really work correctly. Best mat frog. So anytime I'm fishing mats, I definitely add some BBs or some rattle or something to the inside to weight it down and make a more noise and to make a deeper depression on the mat. That's a common mod on duckweed mats. I don't know what you guys think.
Fat Mad Daddy.
The Bullywa, I have not played around with. I don't know if you guys have thrown it. Scum frog, I just don't like the hooks in them. Those old they get bit, but the hooks just aren't the best.
If you're throwing like a medium heavy.
Yeah.
Throw the old scum frog on a medium with a 12-pound mono.
on your BFS rod.
Yeah, there you go. The top toad. Have you guys played with the top toad? I know Gabe's a big fan of the top toad. Mm-hmm. It's like a combination floating frog and buzz frog. Preaching to the choir, Joe. One frog, what would it be? I don't know. I don't want to live in such a world, so I refuse to ask. I'd probably, for me, it'd be
I'd
the
either take
old.
a Spro or that Kiera frog.
I guess it depends. Are we talking about frogs that you can still buy or frogs that you can't buy anymore?
Yeah. I'd probably go the Jekyll Kara.
Yeah, I don't know about the new frog. I'm still finding my way with the new frogs, but boy. So here's a good question. Are you a swamp donkey guy, Trey?
I've got maybe like 1 or 2 of them.
Just what are your thoughts? I mean, there's a lot of people are excited about the old. I mean, these another frog that goes for big money on eBay if you can find the originals.
Which is crazy because didn't Teckle make that exact same bait?
Well, Teckle and then now Swamp. I mean, Reaction Invasion still makes it again.
Yeah.
And
right.
So I've actually bought the Teckle. I've bought the new ones. I've got some of the old ones. I'm going to do a full analysis and do a video, old versus new, and determine if there really is any difference between any of those frogs and whether you need to pay $50 for the old ones, if you need to pay $15 for the Teckle, or if you can just pay $9 for the current Swamp Donkey. So
right.
More to come on that. It's hard. Somebody says Savage Gear frog, which is surprisingly because I feel like everything Savage Gear is weird. Man, Perfect Frog. Rich, what's your setup for watching the Elite Series and the Red Crest at the same time? It's pretty simple. I just watch Bass Live. Honestly, I tried to watch, I totally forgot Monday until lunchtime. The Red Crest was even on, and I had it on while I was working, and I don't know. It's weird. There's something about the way they do it. It doesn't captivate me like Bass Live does. I don't know. I can't put my thumb on exactly what it is, but I mean, I like a lot of those guys over there, and I would rather watch fishing than not watch fishing, but it doesn't, I think it might be the lack of fantasy fishing. Honestly, that could be a big part of it is I have no skin in the game. I have no rooting interest because I'm not picking a team. I'm not sure. What do you guys think?
I'm just not a fan of the announcers.
So yeah, I think it's the style of the announcers.
Yeah.
I think it's the lack of fantasy fishing. And it's because I like those guys. I mean, most of them, there's a few guys. I mean, there's guys I don't like on all the tours, honestly, that I don't really care for. But I think it has to do with the production, the announcers, and a couple of those things. It's just hard to get into it.
Yeah. I mean, I watched a little bit today, and one of the guys, I won't mention his name, he sets up on a fish, and he's like, oh, it's a good one. It jumps. He's like, oh, it's a really big one. It's a big one. He gets it in 1 pound, 13 ounces. I'm like, bro,
not even cool.
You've won $1 million, and it's come on. I don't know if it's just fabricated drama or.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
how about the views?
What do you guys think? Do you guys fish the sprinkler style frogs? Man,
it's been a while.
I played around.
Are you talking the Teckle sprinkler?
Yep.
Yeah. Or the Booyah.
I like them. The hooks are god awful.
Oh, and the Teckle, the sprinkler.
Yeah, they're a 1/4 inch away from the bait.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more of that open water, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of it, right? But this is what you're talking about, right? Those hooks you can see are off the bait. So around rice, reeds, true emergent vegetation, it can be a little, but there is a time and a place for it. But
it gets big for sure.
A lot of times I probably would rather just throw a ribbit or something like that to get the same effect, or a Strike King Rage Toad.
Plopper 110.
Yeah. I mean, if you're in open water, right, just throw the plopper. If you're in the cover, I'd probably almost prefer the buzz frog most of the time, or the top toad. JJ agrees with me. The doctor says, "Oh, sprinkler is a sub for a horny tone, but you can't stop it." JJ say agrees with me. That's why we can't watch it. What's going on, man? But we should maybe touch on fancy fishing. Hey, Do you play, Trey? Do you play fantasy fishing?
Yep. Yeah. Actually did pretty well in the first tournament.
Ooh, he's bragging. So, like, reminder, tomorrow the Elite starts. So get your lineups in. If you didn't watch my video, there's still time. If you haven't joined the Omnia group, it's right up there at the top. Join the Omnia group. If you haven't joined my group, number 3. So all those groups, prizes. This is your like final reminder. If you haven't got a team in, make sure you do that. Man, what's Punch wants to know, what's your association with Omega?
So I've been with Omega for I'd say 8 years, maybe. Helped the second owner kind of keep the company afloat, design baits for them, and then it got bought out by Brad and Michelle, I guess 4 or 5 years ago. And I pretty much design and custom paint some of their heads, like their spinnerbait heads, their chatterbait heads, did their swimbait heads, and just do special orders for them. If guys want a special color, then I'll just custom paint for them.
Yeah. Brock wants to know favorite tournament fishing overall, or maybe it's like, what's a couple guys you guys really like to pull for? It's hard to pick just one.
Brandon, Seth.
Is it Polnick and Fighter? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick, Seth, the Canadians.
Yeah, Chris Grow, good dude.
Yeah, I'm a big Brandon Lester.
I want to see Chris do well.
Yep.
I like Brandon Lester a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of guys I like, but those are a couple.
Hackney.
Yeah.
Now that he's back.
Hackney, Christie. Yeah. Maybe yeah, so like this is a good time. If anybody's got any like rod questions, especially Dobyns, we could run through a few of those. 1 ounce treble hooks top water rod. So we're talking what, like super spooks, big ploppers at an ounce?
735.
That's what I was gonna say. 735 fishing on braid. Same.
Yeah,
my group has a password. It's jigs for pigs, all lowercase with the number 4. So jigs for pigs is I just put it in the chat. If you're trying to join the
vote for Steve Kennedy.
Kennedy, I'd like to pull for Kennedy. I just won't pick him in a fantasy group. Like, I'm a fan.
Exactly.
I can't pick him in fantasy.
He's never one to pick.
Yeah, cool. So I don't know. Any other rod questions? What other topics? Anything you guys want to touch on? Was there anything else? Oh, you know what? We got to talk about the giveaway while we're looking for rod questions. So Trey's got how many wakes can somebody walk away with?
Oh man, let's do 4.
4 wakes, hand-picked best colors by Trey. And what you need to do to enter is when this replay goes up, when we're done, probably in another 20 minutes, half an hour, what I want you to do is leave a comment with what's a good comment? What baits that we looked at from the Omnia were you most excited about that we showed tonight? So go down in the comments, leave a comment to enter which one of the baits, the Adrenaline Craw, the Namiki Vault, the River to Sea Crank, the Fritz Side, the Gambler Big Easy. Which one of those were you most excited about that we showed you tonight? And that's how you get in. And then next week, when we have Josh Strachner on, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro, during that live stream, we'll do a live random comment selection. So that's how you can win 4 TH Kustoms wakes. So there you go. Rod questions. Thoughts on jerkbait rod length? I really like the 704 CB. I'm a big 7-foot jerkbait. I don't think you need a short rod for jerkbaits.
I do the same rod, 704 or 705 for like +2s, 120s maybe.
And Trey, you're not like a super tall guy, right? I don't think. Like
I'm 5'9", so I've been using the 704.
You're the average man. It's not like you feel like you need this like special 6'8" rod to throw a jerkbait or anything. Me
personally, no. But a lot of guys like that 684 if you're bank fishing.
Sure. I just feel like that was a little. I feel like the 684 is 7-footer for you, Jacob. Jacob also is not a center on any.
Not
NBA.
that I'm 7 feet tall.
No.
I know he looks like it, but he's definitely
Certainly
not.
not.
So yeah, we're all 7-footers, and we like that kind of 4-power rod, reaction rod, chatterbait rod. Which one do you like? Are you a 736 CB guy, or what is your rod of choice?
That's one rod I'm going to pick up before the beginning of the season. I do a 703 Sierra or a 704.
Yeah. 733, 703, all great rods in your budget. I think, like, honestly, unless you're like super into chatterbaits, that 3-power Dobyns is the way to go. Like, because then you can use it for a lot of things. Like, you can throw a Senko with it. You can do, I mean, like, it's a very versatile rod. If you feel like you are like into chatterbaits where it's always on your deck and like you're like, then you can look at one of those special reaction bait rods. I know, like, there's some good ones from Daiwa. Dobyns has some good dedicated, like the 735 and 736 CB. What are some of the ones you like, Jacob, from Daiwa?
That new Rebellion, the 7.4 glass rod. That's a cool one. It's a heavy. It's compared to the old Evergreen, the original jackhammer rod. It's got to be half the weight.
Nice.
That thing was a brick. I love the action on it, but it's a brick.
I'm weird, and this is not useful to anybody. I use the 754 Zeta to throw my bladed jigs, which is a rod that none of you can get. So it's a prototype rod that never made it to market. JJ wants you to break down those two BFS rods, the 704 versus this, or 740 versus the 700 Sierra. Is it just length, or is there any other differences?
If you want an all-around rod, the 700, 740 is what I use for vertical stuff. Drop shots, Ned rigs, heavier hair jigs. 700 you can use for everything. Crankbaits, Neds, jerkbaits, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Sycamore, can you get most Dobyns rods or corks? I think the Fury is a combination cork and foam, and then the Colts are foam only. So anything from Sierra, Caden, and up is going to be all cork, except for a few, right? The swim bait rods have the foam, and a few other like specialty rods have some foam, depending on that. But actually, Gary's a big like cork nut. He loves his cork. He actually puts much better cork on rods than a lot of people do. So if you're a cork fan, Dobyns has high quality cork. I mean, that can't be argued, I don't think. So
especially the Ecstasy.
I don't have an Ecstasy yet. I've restrained myself thus far.
Good rods.
So some people are saying they're excited for the wakes.
Tell Pete he needs to bring wakes to work tomorrow.
All right, Pete, bring some wakes. Jacob wants to lay his eyes on them. Got a Dobyns Champion medium with moderate action, good for crankbait. So I think if you're talking like a 3-power, they're decent crank rods. I mean, if you're looking for something that you can like be versatile with, I mean, I throw like lipless cranks on a 733 a decent amount. I don't always use a specific crankbait rod for that. So Baitcaster for Ned rigs, is that the 700 for you, or you have a different rod that you throw Ned rigs on?
If he's talking like reel,
oh, it's Baitcaster. Sorry, yeah.
I guess Ned rigs are.
Come on, Rich.
They're not that heavy. I mean, they're. You could go Tattoo SV depending on how heavy you are with the Ned rig. Tattoo SV will throw pretty light baits for not getting into that BFS territory. Daiwa Pixies, Shimano, what is it? The Corrado 50s?
50s or 70s?
Yeah, 50 or 70s are good for it.
Depends on the model year, whether it's a 50 or 70, depending on,
I
think.
And I know Shimano's, they came out with the SLX BFS over in Japan, but it won't be coming over here.
JJ says, is there much action flex difference between you, or is it just length between the two?
Just length.
Okay. Looking for a new 3/8 half-ounce jig rod for throwing standard wire jigs around shallow cover. I have not used the 754 Ecstasy, but if I was going to go, I would definitely go with the 755 for that. Not a 7. That's me personally. I like the 5-power Dobyns for that. I mean, like I use the 705 Champion Extreme. Actually, if I was going to get the Ecstasy, I mean, if I was doing skipping a lot, I'd go 725. If it was more flipping and pitching and you weren't worried about accuracy and skipping, then I'd go 755. What are your thoughts, Trey? I mean, what do you...
half ounce for sure is what I use for the 725 and 755s that I have. If you're going quarter to 3/8, I'd say 754. But once you hit that 3/8 with a trailer, half with a trailer, go with the 5-power.
I mean, if your trailer looks like this, 5.
Yeah. or like a bile crawl or something like that. I mean, the trailer alone is heavy enough. So
I can tell you what it is. I've got a scale right here. An X-Zone craw weighs 3/8 of an ounce. There you go.
Yeah, so you put that with the 3/8 ounce. Even if you chop it,
yeah,
you're over a half ounce. So
this really seems like a personal question, doesn't it? I'm more in front of myself, I guess, with a jerkbait typically. I don't know what you guys...
I'm like a 45-degree angle, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
what is the largest crankbait you recommend for the 705 CB? I think his assessment is accurate. I wouldn't throw much bigger than a DT10 on a 705.
No.
Part of that's length.
Like DD22s, but that was because I needed to.
Yeah, I mean, in a pinch you can do it, but yeah, I mean, like getting to those deeper rods, I want a longer rod. I want a 765 typically, not a 705. I think that new 735 Caden crankbait rod will be a really interesting rod for if you're looking for something that'll kind of do a little more. I think that'll be a really good rod. I haven't tried it yet. Drop shot rod, for me, anything a 702 in your budget spinning rod is what I use. Like whatever your budget is, 702 spinning rod. Trey will tell you to buy some fancy baitcaster with a shallow spool, but
yeah, 702. Even I know that.
Yeah. If you're into chatterbaits, people love the 736 CB. I have not tried one, but so many fans of that rod. But there's a lot of other good rods. I mean, I prefer the graphite composite. I'm not a big fan of the glass rods, just in general across, whether it's Dobyns or not.
You see Pete's question? Not
yet. I'm probably behind a little bit. JJ always will recommend the 734 for everything. If you ever, my gosh, what happened? Ugh. Will Omnia carry the 300 size Corrado?
I think so. Tell Shimano to ship something to somewhere that isn't big box.
Yeah.
Personal message.
Yeah. Getting reels are the issues. Small body crankbait rod. I like the 704 CB. Swim bait rod.
795 Fury.
795 Fury or Champ, depending on your budget. Shadow hates cork. Anyone have the 724 Sobe rod? I do not.
Nope.
I think they got a few in. I don't know. The Ecstasy 755. Big fan.
Yeah, I let my buddy Joe borrow it. I got spoiled.
Trivia for Trey. Oh, I just lost it. Which Elite Series venue did his Wakes first cash a check?
I'm going to say Sabine River.
Who was it? Who was throwing it?
I think it was Seth.
Nice.
That's my guess, but I don't know.
Nice. Cool. We're all caught up. Rapid fire. Ooh, so right about 2 hours. So Jacob, you've hung in there. You were just going to stay for a few minutes, and here you are,
Yeah.
2 hours later. Congratulations.
I am.
Just shows that Jacob is a big bait junkie like the rest of us. So cool. Well, I think we'll just maybe, if a few more questions, this is kind of like your last call. Couple things, reminders. If you like what you saw, obviously the codes are on the bottom for Arsenal and Omnia. You save yourself some money, support the show. We'd love having you guys on. Check out Trey's website, which is, I'll bring that back up one more time. It'll be in the description. We'll just flash that back up here quick so everybody can see that maybe missed it earlier. But if you're looking for reel tuning, cleaning, custom crankbaits, upgrades to your reels, if you got questions about super high-end, nerdy Daiwa stuff, he's your guy. So make sure you check that out.
I'll vouch for the cleaning too.
What's that? Vouch for the cleaning. Okay. Yeah.
I'll vouch for the cleaning too. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you missed it, the replay is going to be up. Leave a comment to enter it for the wakes. If you don't, you can listen to the audio version of this on podcast. So if this is too much for you to watch on YouTube on a computer screen, you can listen to it while you walk the dog, exercise, drive into the lake, whatever it's going to be.
Working on more reels.
Cleaning reels, whether you're doing it for hire or doing it for yourself. So those are all things to keep up. And then next week, Josh Strachner, and that's when we'll do the drawing for the wake baits. Couple questions here. Yes, Brock, you can still get in my Bassmaster League. You can still get in the Omnia League. What Sierra models do you prefer over a champ? Interesting question. So in general, the Sierras have a slightly slower action than the champions. Not by a lot, but a little bit. So I think it depends on what you want to do. So like if you were looking for, let's say, a reaction bait rod, but you didn't want to go to a champ crankbait rod, right? You wanted something a little more versatile, then getting like a 3-power Sierra would be a good option. That would be a slightly slower action. Still would be okay for like fish and Senkos and worms, but you could also double as a crankbait spinnerbait rod pretty good. So I think just know that the Sierras have a slightly slower action. So depending on what you like for rods, that's how I would gauge that. You're giving up a little bit in like blank quality and components, but not a ton. So that's, I mean, personal preference. I have not thrown the Access. I don't know if either one of you guys thrown the Access or the Jabberjaw?
Nope.
Yeah. I'm thinking about getting some.
I haven't even seen one in hand yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Punch. Glad you guys enjoyed the show. I thought there was a lot of good nerdy bait talk here tonight and gear talk and rods and reels, which is always fun. Time flew. Nathan says he's waiting for his reels tray. So
they didn't show up. Which means I can show up tomorrow and I gotta knock them out before I leave. So
you can take them with. Reels don't take that much space to carry on, right? I mean, I'm sure your wife would be totally cool with you cleaning reels on the plane. So
yeah, flight, I guess.
Can you imagine the look on the people like when you're trying to slide your carry-on through the electron and there's like this piles of reels and like cotton swabs and like
grease and oil.
What are you doing, sir? And why do you think you're bringing this on the plane? Yeah, awesome. So thanks everybody that tuned in. If you missed some of it, like I said, catch the replay on the podcast or the YouTube or on the Facebook if that's where you're watching it. Did I just say the Facebook? I feel like I'm like 80 years old. The Facebook.
You did.
As always, guys, here to help you guys catch more bass and suck less.